Okay, welcome everybody. We're on Lamed with Bays. About 10 lines from the bottom. No, we're 10 lines from the bottom. 10 lines from the bottom. The Gemara started yesterday about a Levi who was told that he has separated Meiser, and he told Levi it's for you. And the question we spoke about is the Achshash that the Levi had designated to be Trumas Meiser. Because when Levi has Meiser, it's this week's Parsha. Singing the Parsha Meiser, and Levi gets Meiser. Yes, they take off Meiser and Meiser. Yes, take off 10 to the 10. That's called Trumas Meiser, and he gives it to the Kohen. Has the same thing as Truma. So here it's so when Levi gets Meiser, he might have other Meiser that he has to be Maaser. He has to take off Trumas Meiser from. So he might have designated the Meiser that is by the Yisrael who promised him Meiser. He might have used that to become Trumas Meiser. So if he picks it up himself, he comes eventually to the Yisrael and picks it up. So he knows that it's Trumas Meiser. But the question is, do we have to be Choshesh it's Trumas Meiser or not? So first of all, starts talking about
the possession of Israel.
You're right. Does the Yisrael have to be Choshesh? What's in the Ger too? First of all, starts talking about if the Yisrael wants to buy it. If the Yisrael wants to buy it, does he have to be Choshesh? Maybe the Levi made it Trumas Meiser. But that wouldn't make sense, like the Gemara says, because the Levi's going to tell him. The Levi's going to tell him. I mean, he's not going to sell it to him, and then it's really Trumas Meiser. So the Gemara comes out. The pshat we're going to say is that the Yisrael tells the Levi that I gave this to your father. I told your father when he was still living that I'm giving him Meiser. I have Meiser by me for him. And then the father died. So the question is, if the son has to be Choshesh, that the father made it to become Trumas Meiser. The father died. So it says that. So that was the case. So now no one's in Russia. The father died, and now the son is getting it, and he has to know, could he sell it? The Yisrael wants to buy it. Even the Levi himself, he has to know, is it Trumas Meiser or not? So
why would the whole thing be Trumas Meiser?
Because the Levi, who was notified that he's getting Meiser,
is going to pay.
Might have used that to be the Trumas Meiser, that he has other Meiser also. The Levi has at home, he has Meiser that it wasn't yet taken off Trumas Meiser, and now he got more Meiser. So altogether, that Meiser that he got is a tenth of the Meiser that he has at home. So let's say that's Trumas Meiser, and then eventually I'll pick it up and I'll give it to the Kohen. So maybe it's Trumas Meiser. Mazel tov, Mazel tov, Mazel tov. The day before, the day after, like
the week after, yeah.
always have Simchas and Torah all together. Amen. So that was as far as we got yesterday. So what did it say? That if the Levi was notified how much he's getting, then he might have used it in the calculations. That take Trumas Meiser, and maybe it's Trumas Meiser. But if he wasn't notified, then he couldn't have used it as Trumas Meiser because he didn't know how much the cheshbon. That's what the Brisa says so far. That was a Brisa, yeah, Tanur Rabbanan. Not a Gemara's kasha. The kasha is is there any reason to assume to be Choshesh that Aver, this person who is Makan Trumas and Meiser, that he would have done Shalom and Mukaf. The word Mukaf means close by, connected. It doesn't mean surrounded, like sometimes the word Mukaf means. Here it means that it's close to each other. That means when you take off Meiser or Truma, you have to take it off close to the produce that you're being
Maaseh. See it, like in the same
it has
room?
to be next to each other in the same room. I forgot all the details how mukaf it has to be, but it has to be close. So what kind of chash is this? That the Levi is home and he now not notified that he has Meiser by the Yisrael's house. So he might have said that Meiser over there by the Yisrael's house should be Trumas Meiser on the Meiser that I have over here. That's Shlomo Namukov.
Shouldn't work.
So it doesn't work. It says you're not allowed to do it.
You're not allowed to do it.
So why should he be choshesh that he did something you're not allowed to do? So this is a big pellet, this one line, because this brings down a Mishnah that says that Trumas Meiser is different than all other things. Truma and Meiser you're not allowed to do, Shlomo Namukov. Trumas Meiser you're allowed to do. So this Gemara is a pellet. This Gemara seems to say that Trumas Meiser you're also not allowed to do Shlomo Namukov, just to point out to Tosfos. Tosfos brings a Mishnah, Tema, the Tosfos v'chinachshadu. Tema, the time of Maseches Bikurim, Trumas Meiser, Shaval Bikurim, that is Niteles, Shlomo Namukov. It's fresh Mishnah that you're allowed to take Trumas Meiser, Shlomo Namukov. So what's the Gemara talking about? So that means Yerushalmi and the Gemara Mitzia, a bunch of places where it says that you're allowed to take Trumas Meiser. So Tosfos says a teretz, but for us, let us take the Gemara that the Gemara here says you're not allowed to take Trumas Meiser, Shlomo Namukov. So that's the Gemara's kasha. What is the reason to be choshesh that Meiser that the Yisrael is holding for the Levi, that the Levi might have made it Chumas Meiser? You don't do such a thing. You don't take of Chumas Meiser Shlomo Namukah. V'chinech Haverim litum Shlomo Namukah Elam Ravashi. So Nubshat. Hachikama Ben Yisrael Shlomo the Levi Kachamali Abba Meiser Lechaviyadi or Meiser Lechaviyadi Hoshin Lechumas Meiser Shabo. Here the Gemara goes another Nubshat. And also you have to change the gears around. Before it said Ein Choshishin, now we're going to change Ein Choshishin to Choshishin, and the next two lines it's going to say Ein Choshishin. We changed it from Choshishin. So the Brisa means different. Till now we learned that the question was you have to be Choshish that Meiser became Tumas Meiser. He's surely not Choshish for that because we're in Shlomo Namukah. You don't do such things. The question is if the Levi was given Meiser, can he assume that the Yisrael already took off Tumas Meiser for him? I'll make it just to say it easy. When Yisrael gives Levi Meiser, you ever got Meiser?
No.
Never got Meiser?
No.
Okay, so I don't get
You
often, but and I know, like once in a while, it's only from Tevel Vadai. Only when people have Tevel Vadai, when they really have Tevel, but you don't.
Every time never give you, or maybe you're Ronnie.
So it's not often that nowadays we get. Really, we should be getting the whole time.
Here we are.
So what do you get? What do you get?
Olive oil.
Oh, really?
Well, I got wine one time. It's not something to make parnasa from. Yeah.
Don't go on your day job.
But when Yisrael gives the Levi Meiser, there are two ways of giving it. Either he tells them this is Meiser, and you have a responsibility to take of Tumas Meiser. When Levi gets Meiser, or you can tell him that I'm giving you Meiser, Shenitla Mimenu Tumas Meiser. I did the job for you already. I did. The Yisrael takes off Meiser, and he takes off from the Meiser Tumas Meiser, and he gives it to the Kohen. Means that the Yisrael has.
He's supposed to do that.
He can. The one's going to say that according to one of them, he can. Focus. But if he can, that's what. Then we assume that he did. And now the question of the Gemara is going to be the opposite. Not if you choshish that the Meiser became Tumas Meiser. That you don't do from far away. You don't do it remotely. But the question is when the Levi is getting Meiser, can he assume that Yisrael already took off Tumas Meiser and everything that he's getting is already mutter to eat?
Like Mitukan.
Mitukan, right? That's the way to say it. Or does he have to be choshish that the Yisrael did not take off Tumas Meiser, and now he's responsible to take off Tumas Meiser? So how does that?
Today, when we do our Choshish Tumas Meiser, we do that.
We do that, right? Nowadays, the Yisrael.
We do that because then we're going to keep it. We don't even give it to the lady.
Right, but are you allowed to? Maybe you have to give it to the Levi, and then you don't have to give it to the Levi. You don't have to give it to the Levi. Right. So is that more reason that you're allowed to do it? The more is going to say that's a machlokas, and one man that holds you may, and we're going to pass them like that. And the question will be, if you don't know like that, so then you wouldn't be able just to be kosher shame. You don't have to give it. If you don't have to give it, so then surely you can do it. Okay, but here the Gemara is going that he's supposed to give it to the Levi, but the Yisrael, even though he's giving it to the Levi, he takes the liberty and the responsibility, if he wants to take off Tumas Meiser before he gives it to the Levi. So here's how we read it now. Ben Yisrael Shamal Levi, Kachamali Abba, Meiser Lachabiyadi. Yisrael said, or my son of Yisrael says to a Levi, my father told me that he's designated Meiser for you. I didn't. If I would have done it, I would have told you what I did. But my father told me that he has Meiser for you, or Meiser Lavicha Biyadi. You can take out some don't have this because it doesn't make a difference.
What, this is something that he would have said?
This is something that I said.
He either said the first thing or this.
The Ben Yisrael tells a Levi,
My
father told me, or the Ben Yisrael tells the Levi that
it's for you to do.
Either I gave it to you, either my father gave it to you, or my father gave it to your father. My father designated Meiser for you, or my father designated Meiser for your father. There's no difference. There's no difference at this point. They're probably just the same generation. He gave it, to his friend. So
no, your Meiser's in my hand means I took the Meiser already. Isn't it? The first one. I thought that means
Meiser means that you have Meiser by me. Meiser l'cha biyadi, your Meiser is by me. Why is your Meiser by me? Because I'm giving it to you. I'm the Yisrael. I separated Meiser. And I'm giving it to you. My silo, there's Meiser waiting for you.
Oh, okay.
That's what we said. That was also till now. That was the lashon that we were using. That the Yisrael has Meiser, and he's telling him that I'm giving it to you. Or my father said that he has Meiser to give to your father, but if the father died, and now, so it's all the same. the Yisrael is telling the Levi that there's Meiser designated for you. Not that I didn't do it, my father did it. Choshishin, Chumas Meiser Shavo. You have to be Choshish that the Chumas Meiser was not yet designated. There was a little bit fancy footsteps.
That there's
You have to
Meiser
say-
in it.
Yeah, which means that he didn't take a Chumas Meiser yet. It
Because
still
when he
was
said
not
by,
tied.
when he said by me, maybe someday I'm gonna do that, but I didn't do it
No,
yet.
no. I have Meiser for you, but I didn't take a Chumas Meiser for you. That's your business. I have Meiser.
Oh, I have Meiser for you.
I have Meiser for you. Meiser L'cha B'yadi. So the Levi has to be Choshish that it was not yet tied
And he has
to the Chumas Meiser. So when he gets it, he goes, picks it up. Now he has to take the Chumas Meiser because it's not assumed that the father would have taken it off. Why? Because given the little kids, since it's not a set amount. Now, it could be that the Israel didn't know how much it is, but it's the words, since he didn't say how much it is, that means that it wasn't, he didn't know himself how much it was. So then the Yisrael, the Balabais means the Yisrael, he wouldn't have taken off Tumas Meiser because he didn't know yet how much it was. He didn't know it, so he wasn't. So there's no chash, not there's no chash. You can't assume that he took off Tumas Meiser for you because he himself didn't know how much it was. But if he said how much it is, what?
Maybe the father did.
But he didn't say it. Since it wasn't the instructions, he would have said that he would have told the son how much he has. Yeah, or else you have to be at least choshish that he didn't say it because he doesn't know. But if he said beferish how much meiser there is to pick up, but if he said kol meiser l'cha b'yadi or kol meiser l'vicha b'yadi, if my father told me that he has a core of meiser to give to you or that he gave to your father, then ein choshin tumas meiser shavo. The Levi who's getting it doesn't have to worry that maybe it was not yet tied. He can assume that it was tied. Because given the kids, they couldn't attack the balabais. Since it's a set amount, he knows how much it is. The father had known how much it was, so he would have taken it, he would have been talking it already. That means here, this sounds like the stam is, if you hold that you're allowed to do it, the Yisrael does it. The Yisrael who gives Meiser to the Levi, he takes the opportunity to take off Tumas Meiser before he gives them. He gives them already Meiser Metukan, which is the Yisrael will give the Levi, Meiser Shenitla Mimenu Tumas Meiser. It was already tied. The Gemara says, you're allowed to do such a thing. The Yisrael takes off Chumas Meiser. That's Levi's job. Like he says, end of the Pasha, when you get Chumas Meiser, so take off Chumas Meiser, Meiser and Meiser. So it says, yes, you're allowed to do it. The Yisrael is allowed to take off, when he takes off the Meiser, before he gives it to the Levi, he's allowed to take off Chumas Meiser and give it to the Kohen. And who says that? Abba ben Gamlahi, that's his name. The Brisa that says you're allowed to do it, it says Abba ben Gamla. The Tanya, Abba ben Gamla Omer, it says in the pasuk, it says that it tells in the pasuk, it says to the Levi, you should take off maaser and maaser. Take off a tenth of a tenth, which means what we call trumas maaser. And it says that trumas maaser will be considered like truma gadol. That's what the pasuk says. If you look in the pasuk, the last couple of lines of our Parsha Shavua, Parshas Korach. So it says that take off truma maaser and maaser. And achshav lachem truma aschem. Does it have the pasuk over here? This I think it does have it over here. Where is that? It has the psukim, this edition. Here it is. Just to open it up. Which Rashi and the Meforshim explain that your Chumas Meiser that you're going to take off, you Levium, take off Chumas Meiser, it's the same as Chuma that was taken from the regular Tevel. Which means the grain that's in the silo or I forgot what the word Leah means. We'll see the sixth parsha from the vat. That means the wine and the grain that is tevel, and you took off truma from that, as if it would say v'nechshav lachem trumas meiser k'truma min hadagan or truma min yaakov.
Rabbi?
Yes, please.
I was always under the impression that the Levim were actually had a mitzvah to take the meiser min
Yes,
truma
but
meiser.
Yes,
And
but
this is the source, maybe.
No, what do you mean? The source
Because
that
it
what?
says v'nachshav lachem. Oh,
I'm not following. Let's get, maybe we'll open up the pasuk a second. This is by Midbar 18. Let's open up the pasuk and see.
18:27.
And that's going to be this week's parsha. So we're doing a little bit parsha.
Very nice.
Is that on the
How much are they
screen?
quoting here? Nachshav lachem trumas ken.
Just want to make sure that this is on the screen a second. Let's see.
Where are you?
I'm at the beta, what do you call it? Heart Sofim with my son, waiting for his surgery.
Maybe
Oh, yeah.
Did you have the operation already?
No, he's waiting. He's waiting to go. Zrat Hashem.
Everything should go well.
Amen, amen. Baruch Tzia, thank you.
Bamidbar 18,
1827.
27. So here's where it starts. The last part, this is the last words of the parsha. Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Lemot. Speak to the Leviim and tell them, when you take from Bnei Yisrael Maaser that I'm giving to you from them, so you should lift off of it Truma. Maaser Mana Maaser. Take a tenth of a tenth. They give you a tenth, take off a tenth of a tenth. And that Truma's Maaser will be considered for you the same way that they took off Truma from the Dagon and the Malaya, from the wheat. That means the same way that whatever Truma is, the Truma Gedola we call, that's Truma that the Yisrael takes off to give to the Kohen. So your Truma Smaiser has the same din as Truma Gedola. Your Truma Smaiser has the same din as regular Truma. Means it goes to the Kohen, that's the same din as Truma. And the Pasuk says it again, that's the end of the parsha. So back to the Gemara. So this is going to be a drasha. Where am I holding here? Next page. The top of the page. Lamed Aleph. The pasuk says that your Trumas Meiser should be considered like no, I think not. So Rashi doesn't like that. That means your Truma. Truma Shem, but plural is only you plural people, you Levium, your Truma. So that's not doesn't say two Trumas. So Rashi says that Rashi is because the pasuk itself says that your Truma should be considered like Truma Gedola. Your Trumas Meiser is like Truma Gedola.
Oh.
So that means the pasuk is comparing it. The words sound like Levi Yaakov would have said that the pasuk Trumas sounds like two, but that doesn't mean that. It means that the pasuk itself compares Trumas Meiser to Truma Gedola. Achas Truma Gedola, Achas Trumas Meiser. That's what the pasuk says. And now that the pasuk compared it, we're going to learn that one from the other. Kishem Truma Gedola only tell us ba'omed of machshava, just like Truma Gedola. Truma Gedola means the regular Truma that the Yisrael gives to the Kohen, which is with the rice any amount, and with Rabbanan 50th is normal, a 40th is Ayin Yafa, a 60th is Ayin Ra. But if that Truma Gedola you're allowed to take by assessment, evaluating. You want to take up Omed means to assess, to evaluate, to approximate. So you're allowed to do that because it's partially why you're allowed to do that, because you don't really have to give any amount. You can give a mashu. So we try to give a 50th, but you're allowed to do it approximately. You don't have to measure it in order to see.
Yes, but it's going to be for the Levi. Has to be 10%.
But you're talking about the Truma, not Maisa. You're talking about Maisa. Maisa has to be a 10. But Truma, the device says any amount. And it's nice to give a 50th, but it's not ma'akev.
No, I thought that the Trumas Meiser has to be 10%. Right, that's going to be a problem. How can you say it's like the other Truma?
Good. So how do you say? Good question. But so far we're talking about Truma.
Well, Truma and Truma, I thought we're talking about
Truma and Trumas Meiser. We're going to learn that from Truma to Trumas Meiser. Truma, you're happy that Truma can take one.
I'm happy, yeah.
Okay, but Trumas Meiser, you're not going to be happy.
I'm not happy.
And now the Pasuk is going to learn how to drasha, tell us to teach us that you're allowed to do it, evaluating, even though it's supposed to be exactly 10th of a tenth, you're allowed to estimate it. And you're asking, how could that be? It has to be a 10th of a tenth. It has to be exactly 100. Yeah. How could you give it as estimating? I don't know the answer. We don't pass like this. The Pasuk Trumas Meiser has to be exact. You're not
it has to be a 10th of the 10th. You don't know what the Truma is. So it's not going to be 100th.
Not following.
It's not 100th of the whole thing.
A 10th of a tenth is 100. A 10th of a tenth is 100. But he's saying you're allowed to do it approximately. Again, Truma has nothing to do with the 10th, nothing to do with the 100th. Truma means with the rice, take a mashu. Chita achas pater sesakri. Where Rabban is supposed to give the 50th. So
it's Truma 100th of what was left after the Truma was taken.
Yes. Yeah. But you're supposed to be exactly. And he says, even though it's exactly, you're allowed to do it approximately.
You shouldn't worry that there's
too much, too little, and it's okay for some reason. Okay. Also, b'machshava. B'machshava means that you're allowed to do it without even actually separating it. Or
you can just do it by thinking.
Right. That's what he says over here. B'machshava. And it says in the v'nechshav lachem Trumas, the pasuk at the bottom of the page. V'nechshav lachem. The pasuk means v'nechshav. It should be considered, but the more is darshaning machshava. Thinking, and you're allowed to do it by thinking. You're also allowed to do it by omed. That's approximately. That's what I think. So since that's by Truma, Kach Trumas Meiser, they tell us Bomed of Machshava. Okay. So that's a chiddush that Trumas Meiser, you're allowed also that you're allowed to do it approximately, and also we're thinking. The truth is that the pasuk says over here by Truma, says about Trumas Meiser. The pasuk says about Trumas Meiser, we learn out the Truma also. That's what it seems to be. But the main point we want is the next part of this drasha. Ukashem sheyesh lo rishus l'balabais litrum truma gedola. Kach yesh lo rishus l'balabais litrum trumas ma'aser. Who takes off truma gedola? Surely of there, surely the Yisrael. Nobody else is involved. The Yisrael gives the truma to the Kohen, so he's the one who does it. So the pasuk says that trumas ma'aser is the same thing. There's a comparison between the two. So true, the Yisrael is allowed to take a trumas ma'aser. He doesn't have to, but he may. So that's why, based on this halacha, Elazar ben, how does it go? Abba Elazar ben Gamla. So the Yisrael is allowed to take a trumas ma'aser, and therefore, if he knew how much it was, you're allowed to assume that he did it, even though he doesn't have to. It's a chiddush, still a chiddush.
Because of the drush.
That you're allowed to do it. Doesn't say he has to do it.
No, if you're equating it to truma,
yes,
then lechatchila you can do it because for sure the balabait can do it.
Right, but that doesn't mean that he's going to do it. By truma,
It doesn't mean he's gonna do it. But,
and here it says you're allowed to assume that he did
it.
it. Right, but yeah, true. But you're allowed to assume that he did it. The Levi, here it says that if Levi gets Meiser, he's allowed to assume that it's already Mitukan. Maybe if the guy himself, so then you ask
Unless
him.
he says.
Then ask him, why ask him? But here that the person died, and you don't know what it is, so you're allowed to assume that he fixed it up before he died. Since he's allowed to do it, he probably did it. And all that is extra credit, bonuses we're getting, because we started the whole sugi because of Chazaka over here. How did it come in?
Yeah,
We tell about Chazaka, that Chazaki was still alive, so we went from subject to subject, and this today's subject continuing is also going to be something about a Chazaka, also not in Gittin. We're not in Gittin today.
Machshava part is what we do now.
Usually we do say I raise that, we verbalize it, we say it
We
verbally.
don't say, and this part is the true one.
We say b'droma, we say b'schono, b'droma, we say that the part, the tent that's on the southern side, northern side, we
That's not
designate it,
machshava?
we do it verbally. Here it says you're even allowed to just look at it and think.
Oh, machshava is
Machshava, I think so. Rashi over here says, is there Rashi? The Omer.
I thought machshava meant that
Rashi says
You
no
don't have
saying
to
of a tzazel, Hashem
pick it up.
Afish lo hiprish. Okay, Rashi doesn't say exactly. He says you just look at it, and you don't have to designate it.
you don't have to designate which corner. So we're
You don't have to designate. You don't have to separate it.
Oh, you don't
But
have to separate
I think it means I think Rashi means only you're gonna have to do it verbally. Maybe I'm wrong. Fish for countries, machshava, taisvis, mashma shavot saloma. The shtika. Taisvis says Rashi sounds like you don't have to say anything. Taisvis doesn't like that. Maybe. Okay, at least it's that says you're allowed to do thinking alone without talking. I'm not saying Allah Maisa, but that's
Okay.
what I seem to say. Okay, new sugya. The sugya also.
The truth is very hard. It's assume that
Why should you be able to assume? Yeah, if it's not, then it's mamash tevel. Why should you assume that maybe it's included that a chaver is not mostly that he's dying and they're not going to know? So, but maybe they know that he's dying. The case is that. Why should you assume that the Yisrael did if he doesn't have to? Why should Yisrael have to? It's a nice thing to do for the lay people. Why should he do it?
Maybe isn't it that maybe normally they do it?
Why? Why should he normally do it? I mean, it could be that became the norm. If it did, that would make sense. But just as things are right, that you're right. Somehow they're not allowed to do it. And according to Allah, they're allowed to do it. Now we're going to say if you're allowed to do it, so then he definitely did. That's like a big jump.
Yeah.
The mission about Chumas and and also with the Chazaka. Before the Chazaka was that the person is still alive. Yesterday's mission was that somebody lent money to the Levi or to the own, and he's allowed to assume that he's alive and he's Mizakim. And that was a question of the Cheskas Chaim, that he can assume he's still alive, and therefore I could take it off the Cheshbon still. He owes me money, so I'm going to designate it, whatever. I'm going to separate it and be Mizakim to somebody, or Makori Kahuna, or Chachamim made him Chazocha. And then I can still use it, assuming that is alive. So now we're going to continue with a chazaka, but not that the person is alive, but that food is still alive. And that's the case over here. A person set aside food, that's tevel, in order that he should be able to use that if he has to be mafish shumas and maisros. Now what does that mean? It's very strange. He's going to do shalom and amukah. Yesterday, a few minutes ago, we were screaming that you're not allowed to do shalom and amukah. Trumas Meiser, even that was a question, but here all Trumas and Meisers, and here it says that a person is designating food. He put food into a closet that's tevel, and whenever he needs to be mafish truma, he's going to say that in that closet over there, there's tevel. That should be truma on this, or that should be Meiser on this. And it sounds like you're allowed to do it. And the question is, you're not allowed to do it. That's called Shlomo Namukah. So Taisa says that on Erev Shabbos or Erev Yom Tov, if it's emergency, you can't get to it, then there's an exception. Little Taisa over there on the bottom says, Bavish Abasos, about 5 lines from the bottom, 3, 6, 7 lines from the bottom. Bavish Abasos, Yom Tov, maybe the Shlomo Namukah. That's the problem. How does it say here that you're allowed to do it? You just said before you're not allowed to do Shlomo Namukah. It says that Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov, you're allowed to do it because it's an emergency. Okay, so therefore a person set aside food, probably wheat, in a place that he should, if he ever has to take a Trumas and Meisers, in an emergency case, he should have this emergency fund that's going to be designated to be Trumas and Meisers, and will be able to eat the rest of the food as chulin. Now the question is, or another case, most Leos Mafashale and Meiser Sheni. A person has Meiser Sheni and he wants to be Machal the Meiser Sheni onto money. So he doesn't have money with him. He puts it aside in his drawer. He puts aside money, and whenever he has to be Machal Meiser Sheni, he says the money over there, the kedusha, the Meiser Sheni should be Machal onto that money. So the question is, who says the money's still there? Who says that the food is still there? Maybe it got spoiled. Maybe it got lost. So can he continue assuming that the food and the money is still there? So it says in the Mishnah, yes, you may, because you have a chazaka. Just like before we spoke about assuming the person is still a cheskas chaim, here also there's a cheskas that is still fresh. If you put food aside and you want to use it to be mafish trumas and meisros, you can, even though you don't know that it's there. You can assume that it's there. It was there yesterday, it's still here today. And that's all we really wanted. Now goes a side point. What about a Maisa you came and one time you saw that it's not there anymore? It's spoiled in Ovdu. So surely whatever, you can't use it anymore, it's not there. But the question is, how much do you have to be choshesh in retrospect that it wasn't here? I've been taking Trumas and Meisros for a long time, and now I see that it's not here. Maybe it wasn't here for a long time already. How much do you have to be choshesh in retrospect? In Ovdu, if it got lost and you see that, or they got spoiled, you have to be choshesh 24 hours. That's what the words are. The first of the words mean that you have to be choshesh for the past 24 hours. It's been spoiled already. I had been doing this. I've been assuming that it was fresh, and I was saying that it should be too much mice, whatever it should be mice or true, whatever I needed. And now I go to open it up, the closet, and I see that it's spoiled. So I have to be choshesh, or that it's not there. I have to be choshesh that for the 24 hours it hasn't been there. And the last, if I did any hafresh within the past 24 hours, it wasn't good. Be mafresh again. But before that, I don't have to be choshesh. If I have things that I was mafresh before 24 hours, I don't have to be choshesh that it wasn't there. Just 24 hour backwards. That's what Abelazar ben Shamua says. Period. The Gemara is going to talk about if anybody argues on that. But the Mishnah does continue. How often should you go to check if it's still there? 3 times a year, you check the wine. If you set aside wine, you go 3 times a time to check that if it's still there, it's still fresh. It didn't become vinegar. One is Bekidum Shel Motzai Echad. Second time is Botzah Asmoda.
I'm sorry.
You check
Shel Motzi.
Bodkin Esayayin. The Shlosha Prakim Bodkin Esayayin. 3 times a year, you check the wine.
Okay.
What are the 3 times? The first time is Bekidum Shel Motzai Echad. The second time is
I have
Botzah.
Bokim Shel Motzi. Did I skip a line?
You don't have Esayayin Bekidum Esayayin in the Mishnah.
In the Mishnah, it says Rabbi Yehuda Omer b'shlosha prakim bokin esayayin.
Yeah.
Said period. Right. Bokin esayayin period. Bokin shel motzi hahad.
The kidum.
Oh, bekidum.
Yeah, 3 times a year that you check the wine. The first one is bekidum shel motzai echad. Second one is botzah asmoda. The third one is b'shas knesses mayim abrosa. So what are the 3 times you check the wine? The first one is by motzai echad. Motzai echad means motzai sukkos, but the word kidum means by the eastern wind. Sounds like it's the eastern wind that blows motzai echad. That's what the word seems to say. Rashi says bekidum ruach kadim. Ruach kadim is the eastern wind. So maybe that's time of the year that the eastern wind blows. The Gemara is going to talk about winds today. I don't know much about it. But here it says that Motzei Chag, maybe because of the eastern wind, I don't know. Maybe that's I don't know. I really don't know. So maybe it's a hot wind. The Gemara is going to talk about which are the hot winds, and it might be a reason why it gets spoiled. So Motzei Chag is first time you're supposed to check the wine if it's still fresh. It's like
Would we assume that means this wind is after the hot?
Motzei Chag. I mean, that means after Sukkot. Motzei Sukkot. That means the day after Sukkot, 2 days after Sukkot. You have to check it
Whenever
out.
that wind is.
Or we assume that the wind is that time and you're supposed to check it. You're saying that maybe wait for the wind. I don't know. I also don't know. Second time is a sauce mother. Now this sauce mother has nothing to do with the wine that you have in the barrel. The sauce mother means the new grapes are coming. You have wine from last year's crop. And now it's time that the new grapes started growing. When do the grapes grow? When do the grapes
Harvest is,
the harvest, but when does it start ripening? Smother is mamish when the leaves fall off, when the flowers fall off, and the smother is a tiny grapes. So when the grapevine gives off the smother, so we're not talking about the smother, we're talking about last year's wine that's in the barrel. But for some reason they just gave a simon. At the time, into the year that the smother starts growing, the grapes start growing from the tiny grapes.
now they're
About now. So then you're supposed to check it the second time. First one was Motzei Sukkos, which was in Tishrei, and now we're in Sivan. So you check it again to see the wine didn't spoil. And the third one is Ubashas Knisas Mine Bosa. The Bosa are the small grapes. The smother is tiny grapes, and Bosa is small grapes about the size of a pea. When the grapes are about the size of a pea, so then that's when when the grape starts getting more juicy. In the beginning, it's like a berry that doesn't have a lot of juice. Then the water starts coming into the Bosa. So that is the third time you're supposed to check if the wine is still fresh. So really, it's nothing to do with the new crop growing, not smother, not bosa, but it's probably just a simon to tell you that's the time you're supposed to check last year's wine if it's still fresh. So what do we have?
That's later. The second one was in the summer. The third one's
Even later. Probably maybe a bit later. It's not much later. From the smother to the bosa, probably doesn't take too much time.
So we have the harvest time, or after Sukkot, whatever that is, and then early summer, late summer, or whatever.
Okay. So
Those
this
are the 3 times to check
if the wine
the previous wine, if
is
the wine in the barrel is still.
right, fresh. And why are you checking for? Because you set it aside that I want to take a Tumas and Meiser and an emergency time before Shabbos Yom Tov. I have to take Tumas and Meiser, so I should be able to use that. And it has to be still fresh. If it's became vinegar, so then I can't use it anymore. So the Chatchili is supposed to check these 3 times. If you came and you see that now it's spoiled, so it was one month in our Mishnah. Rabbi said that Choshesh 24 hours in retrospect that it was spoiled already, and before that you could assume that it was still fresh. And the main point of the Mishnah is the beginning of the Mishnah that you're allowed to have a cheskas fresh. That if you put it aside, you're allowed to assume that it's still there, and that it hasn't been lost or whatever. That it's still kosher to use.
And this would be wine in the barrel.
Right.
Once it's bottled, it's.
You think it doesn't get spoiled anymore because they have preservatives.
I don't know.
Nowadays they put preservatives. That's why it doesn't spoil, unless it also
I have wine
spoils
that doesn't
eventually.
have preservative.
And it doesn't spoil. Why doesn't it spoil?
I don't know.
Does it not spoil?
Wine in a bottle can spoil if it's not stored correctly. If it's in too hot of heat or something, it'll still spoil even if it's in the bottle.
Why
It's
does
not
it? Why
stored
does it not spoil? Why does it not spoil in the bottle? Because it's airtight or something? Why?
Yeah,
why?
maybe because.
Because it's airtight. It's also a way of preservation. Okay.
Wine thoroughly it starts to lose itself when the bottle's open. Usually, a week you can taste it's not what it was, and 2-3 weeks it's already not so great.
yeah, it's not easy.
What's that?
Has preservatives, it's unspoiled. Whatever the stuff they can put in the wine.
And the reason why, as long as it's in the oak barrel, so I guess it's just
It's living.
that's in
It's
the.
curing. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say that even with preservatives, it still spoils, but it takes much longer. It's still not great after a month.
Okay,
Yeah.
everything in this world spoils.
Right, exactly.
I was 17. I got a bottle of Chianti wine in Italy. I drank some and then brought the rest back to share with my parents. And it was very good vinegar. By the time I got
Oh, it was vinegar.
Yeah.
Wine
I was
vinegar.
very disappointed.
But you had a good intention. My Maisleis. So the Mishnah says, yeah, Yechoshesh, in retrospect, Yechoshesh 24 hours that it was spoiled. If you find out that it's spoiled, you choshesh 24 hours in retrospect that it was also spoiled. But the Gemara doesn't take it so simply. My meislei said, that's how we said. That from the time that you checked it and you find that it's spoiled, you have to be a choshesh 24 hours in reverse that it was spoiled already.
Aren't they asking what an ace is? Or
No,
everybody
my
knows
mace
it's 24 hours?
Everyone knows that, yeah, everyone knows that's 24 hours. But which 24 hours? So Yochanan says the 24 hours backward from the time that you found out it's spoiled, which is the pashut down the words. Rav Elazar ben Antignus Omer, Mishum Rav Elazar Rav Yanai, Amud Beis, Meis Leish Al Hanocha. The whole different shot. 24 hours from the time that you put it down and you knew that it was fresh. So you have 24 hours. The first 24 hours, you could assume that it was fresh. But after that, you have to be choshesh that it's spoiled. Mamish extreme difference. According to the first shot, you only lose the last 24 hours. And according to Rabbi, what's the name? According to Rabbi Yana, you only have the first 24 hours from the time that you knew for sure that it was fresh. And after that, you choshesh that it's been spoiled already. Okay, the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, "Beferish so that's the word say. You choshesh 24 hours. Choshesh 24 hours means you choshesh the last 24 hours.
According to the second opinion, you have to check it every other day. That's all right.
What you're supposed to do, L'chatchila, it does, L'chatchila says what the Yehuda says 3 times a year. But if you found that it's spoiled, you have to be choshesh very far back. You're saying if you want to be precaution, according to this one, if you're taking a precaution, you have to check it every other day. That you should never lose it. In case you'll find that it's spoiled, you won't have to lose it. According to the which opinion is that?
This last one, the ace list.
The last one says, no. So the first, so that means that you only have the first 24 hours. According to the first opinion, is much more machmir. That's not going to help you even to check it every 24. Whenever you're going to check it and spoil, it's going to be spoiled until the time. Oh, it's spoiled for the past 24 hours. At first, I'm sorry. The first one was very
if
lenient.
you would use it for if you
Use it a
a
long
week
time,
ago you used it for
and it was
Meiser,
good. It
fine.
was good, and
For
now
sure.
you see it's not good. So you only lose the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
According to the second mandama, you're going to lose everything besides the first 24 hours.
Unless every time you keep checking them.
Right. The words fit very well. It says in the Mishnah, Yechoshesh 24 hours. That means Yechoshesh 24 hours. That's what the words say. Yechoshesh much more. Yechoshesh everything besides 24 hours. So the words don't seem to say that. I meisleis, Ad meisleis me boy. It should have said that Yechoshesh until meisleis, not that Yechoshesh 24 hours. Yechoshesh until 24 hours. 24 hours is the good, and now Yechoshesh that is spoiled. Kasha, the words taka don't sound like that. You have to be matchik to say that the words mean that. Because this is if you're sticking the word out, but the words don't seem to say that. The Gemara says taka kasha, and that the Pasha says like a Avrohom says that you lose the last 24 hours. He's the one who said that Yechoshesh for 24 hours. And we'll go with it. Avrohom's shot already. Yechoshesh 24 hours and everything before that is good. Rav Elazar, Rav Elazar the Amora, Rav Elazar ben Pedas said that the other Chachamim they argue on Rav Elazar ben Shamur. The Tana Rav Elazar, Amora Rav Elazar. So the Amora Rav Elazar said that Rav Elazar, the Tana, that said the only Choshesh for 24 hours is only a Das Yachid. The Chachamim argue on him. So he brings a different subject altogether, but it's the same dish about Chazaka. Mikvah shenim that v'nim sachas. You had a mikvah, you knew that it was 40 cells, a kosher mikvah. Now you come and you see that, and you've been using it. And now you come and you see that you measure it, and it's not 40 cells, kosher mikvah. So how much are you choshesh in retrospect that it's been missing water already? So it says here, everything, you choshesh everything was no good. Until you measured it, then it was good. Everything in retrospect is no good. So it's against the Mishnah. Belazar says that only 24 hours are your choshesh, even according to other
And even the other side, you had at least 20.
At least here you have nothing. Here you go back, that it was no good, only the time you knew that it was good. Any taras that you made because you thought that it was a mikvah over here, the people thought that tamei, and the kalim, they're all tamei. Everything in retrospect is going to be tamei, even if it was in b'shus harabim. Usually, safek tumah b'shus harabim is Torah. Here it's going to be tamei because you have a cheskas tumah on the thing was a cheskas tumah, and you don't know that it became Torah. So here too, you have a chazak on the tevel. You don't know if it became tithe, and you have a suffix if this was a good tithing or not. So the chachamim would say that everything is not good. And our Mishnah says, or Belazar said that you only choshesh for 24 hours, or you have at least 24 hours, something. So the chachamim argue on a Belazar. That's what Rabbi Elazar said. Rabbi Elazar ben Vidah said that the Chamag and Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua. The Gemara says Pshita the Chalukin. Of course, you're right. It's a very nice cheshbon. It goes without saying. Everybody knows that the Mishnah Mikvos over here is against our Mishnah. Here it says Yechoshish Lamafreya everything. The answer is Ma'aru Tema Ma'alamafreya Me'esleis Kamashman. You might have stuck in the word. You would have said that that's what they mean. It says the mikvah shenimda the himsachosik called town shenasal gabel mafreya and eisleis. Maybe stick in between the word of mafreya and bein b'shusayach. Maybe stick in the word meisleis. Maybe it means same as our Mishnah. But Yechoshish in retrospect, how much the Mishnah in Gittin says 24 hours. So you might think that the Mishnah before is not arguing. Everyone holds meisleis. So no, it's the machlokes. Our Mishnah holds meisleis, and the Mishnah over there holds you go back to mafreya. Everything is coming. And means just to point out that according to that Mishnah, in our Mishnah also, that if you find that it's spoiled, it's everything's no good. And Rabbi Elazar will say that the Mishnah over there about a mikvos, that if you mikvah shimda v'nim sachasa, you only choshesh to last 24 hours. And before that, you're allowed to assume that it was kosher. Okay, next Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda says that you check the wine 3 times a year.
That would be really the halacha in the first.
And we probably pass like the Rabbanan, not like Amish, not like Rabbi Elazar. That's like the Mishnah that everything in the Mafreya is no good.
That a woman has to go.
Yeah. You have to be choshesh that it was not good. Nowadays, the Mafreya are surely 40, so much more than 40 so.
Yeah.
But if any psul, whatever the psul might be over there, I'm not sure. Rabbi Yehuda, Gimel program, you have to check the wine 3 times a year to see that it's not spoiled. And the first one was Bekidum Shel Matzah Chag. The Kidum Shel Matzah Chag, the eastern wind of Matzah Chag. Tana, the Kidum Shel Matzah Chag Shel Tkufa. It puts in the word Tkufa, Shel Tkufa. So Rashi says Tkufa means in the 4 seasons of the year, coming from the summer now to what happens by June 21st,
Is the summer solstice.
and then starts.
Then it's the-
June.
June
I'm sorry.
21st is the summer
June,
solstice,
July.
the middle of the
September.
September.
And then September starts
stuff.
until October, until
December.
September 21st. September 21st.
Starts fall,
Uh-huh.
December 21st, and that starts winter.
So here it says that when we say now that Matzah Chag is a possibility that it became spoiled, check it at that time to see if it's spoiled or not. That's only if it's already in Tekupas Tishrei, that is past September 21st.
Mhm.
If it's early, it's an early year, it came out early, and Matzah Chag, the Sukkot is over before September 21st, you don't have to be choshesh that it's spoiled. It's too early. It's too early to get spoiled.
Shelt
Tkufa means that there are 4 tkufas. There are 4 seasons.
Yes, seasons. Okay. Seasons.
So
Yeah.
which tkufa are we talking about? The tkufa's Tishrei. The tkufa's Tishrei, which would mean fall. So only if the Matzah Chag is already in the fall, are you choshesh
How
that
could it not be?
it could be an early year. It could be that they didn't do a leap year for a couple of years, and it gets earlier. So Sukkot, the end of Tishrei, is still before September 21st. Sometimes in camp, they blow shofar the whole August. And they come
Blow
home
shofar for all of August.
and they're playing ball, going swimming, they blow shofar, and then they go. It was very strange. Here and there, hello, but hello over there. Okay, so we blow the shofar, and then we go and have camp. And then they come home 2 days before Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah.
And straight, into the, no hello.
Oh.
So it could happen that Sukkot is going to come out before
Even
September
though, I mean,
21st. Maybe now
it's
they-
always in the spring. But then there could be short months.
So Taisus also points out that we tried to arrange it that you should make a leap year, that it shouldn't happen, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they won't make a leap year after other considerations also.
Because there could be
And it
short
could,
months.
and
Pesach could be on the early side.
yes,
And then
earlier.
there are short months
Well,
after.
Okay, whatever the case would have been, a couple of years they didn't make a leap year,
Uh-huh.
and therefore it comes out very early.
So that Tishrei could be not in the Tekufa, so it has to be both.
Past
Past
September 20th.
Past the,
That's what it seems to say.
okay.
Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Gimel Torah Gemara Chodesh Satua. It also goes into different subjects about what Rabbi Yehuda said about when you choshesh, when you have to check that it's not. Oh, we spoke about checking that it's not spoiled. Now comes a related subject, not the same subject, but also 3 times a year. That it's no subject, no shaykh is not a subject really. But Rabbi Yehuda says that Rashi, the Gemara is going to say soon. I'll just say what the Gemara is going to say. That if they are shutfim, they are partners, and one of them, and they're partners in business, and they sell wine, they sell tvua, they sell shemen. So you have to sell it at a good time. That is a good time to sell. One shuttif sells in the low season, so that upon that time is why you're selling It's not a good price now.
Mhm.
So here it says, Tanya, there are 3 times a year that the shuttif is allowed to sell the tfua because it's a high price time. He doesn't have to ask the shuttif, this is the time's a good price. Lifnei azera, ubashas azera, ubafrosa pesach. Lifnei azera means before the planting season. So they would take the grain and they would plant it. They use it for planting. So that's a good time when people are ready to plant. So then they come to buy seeds. They come to apply wheat in order to plant it. That's a good time to sell. So it's you're allowed to sell. The shooter doesn't have to ask his partner. He's not doing it on his own. Shas zera, Taisa says it means the end of the season. End of the season of the planting season, the sowing season. So then people need seeds and they used up all that they had already. So they go to buy more. Also high price. And Prosa Pesach l'chorah means when it's the beginning of Pesach, which means like Chodesh Nisan, it's not the time to plant anymore. You planted already, but now you're running out of food. So people are buying wheat in order to eat. Those are the 3 times that you're allowed to sell because it's a high price.
Bifros Pesach.
Prosa Pesach, they say that it means. I really don't know the literal translation of pros.
Chodesh sounds like just spread out, or just
Or
spread
to
out.
split, they say split like half. And it talks
Split
about the beginning of Nisan. Pesach means Pesach, we know. Prosa Pesach means Chodesh Nisan. 15 days before it's called Prosa Pesach. Does Rashi tell us why?
Oh, 15 days before, okay. 15 days before Rosh Chodesh Nisan.
Before the 15 days before Pesach, which is Chodesh Nisan.
I see.
Does Rashi say all this? No Rashi? No Rashi. Okay. So that's the 3 high seasons for selling wheat. How about wine? Also, you want the high price. Before Pesach, before Satzer, before Chag. 15 days before the 3 Yom Tovim. Maybe because that's when people are buying wine. They want wine for the Chag, so it's a good time to sell. Sometimes pros doesn't mean after 15 days. Maybe it means also the beginning of Sivan. By Pesach and Sukkot, it's going to be the Rosh Chodesh. Maybe by Shavuos, it means 15 days before. It means maybe Rosh Chodesh. Okay. And Shemin, when are you allowed to sell?
Sorry, in the one about the grain. Was it grain?
First was grain.
Yeah, no, the grain. Why would it be at the time that you're at the end of the planting? Why do you need
So
seeds now?
right. So Pesach says
Because you're just going to be.
I'll tell you with my example in the stationery store. So when's the high season?
Right before school.
Right before school, and also the first week of school also.
And also.
Because everyone comes, I need this, I forgot this, and my teacher says, you need more, you need. So Taisa says that at the end of that's giving a muscle. Taisa says that,
Okay, and you mean at the end of the planting, some people ran out.
right, and we need some more. We have another acre that we didn't plant yet.
Oh, the end of the, okay. I see.
End of the
planting.
season.
Uh-huh.
So Taisa just points out that the word says before the planting season and during the planting season. Taisa says that's the same time. Before and during, well, that's the same time. So he says B'shas Zera means the end of the Zera. What does it mean? That they've already planted everything they have and they need some more. So then they go to buy. So it's a good time. It's a good high price also.
Okay.
Okay, well, so where are we holding? By wine and then by oil. How about oil? What is a good time to sell oil? After Shavuos time. So my Chavrusa suggested because during the season when you are pressing the olives, there's a lot of oil. So they do that about Sukkot time. Is that true? About
When they press
Sukkot
the
time.
oil?
When is the oil press time? I think around there. So maybe I'm wrong. But then by the time Shavuos comes around, so then it's not. So now it's more expensive. Now it's a good time to sell. Okay.
Well,
From Shavuos and on.
By any other,
By any yantif, what?
the prices go
Uh-huh.
up. That's the
No, but they're saying like in the summer would not be good.
Because there's a lot of oil, maybe, no.
I don't know.
No, I would think from the oil press time, whatever that is. Whenever the time is that they press the oil, then there's a lot of oil, there's a lot of supply. So
Atzeres is the Sukkot.
Shavuos.
I'm sorry, Shavuos. Oh,
From
from
Shavuos
Shavuos.
on, so the assumption is that it's a good price because there's not so much anymore.
So I'm
If
saying,
you're
but
ready-
what for Ramad, like in Adar would not be good. Winter
Because-
would not be good.
Why? Because that's when there's a big supply, so the price is low. Supply and
I see.
demand,
I
big
see.
supply, so then the price is low. Wait till the supply is not so big, then the price goes up. The Mayilcha said, what's it all talking about? So I got it from here. It's talking about partners. One of them wants to sell, so he's allowed to sell at these times because it's a good price. How about after all these seasons? Called Yom Any from this time and on, all these times that we said, let's say Shavuos for the oil, or once he came on to Prosa Pesach selling grain, from Pesach and on, it's an expensive price. Till then, there might have been an abundance, so then the price was low. Once it comes to the time of Pesach, so whatever they each thing for its own, so then it's high season for selling.
Until the produce of the new year.
I guess, right. Till the new produce, till the new stock comes in. And the rest of the Gemara today is a Garata. And we spoke about winds, because there's the Mishnah, something about Kadin, is the east wind of Matzai Achag. So we talk about winds now. It says by Yonah. It says when the sun shone, so Hashem prepared a eastern wind, Chavishis. What's Chavishis? It's part of the pasuk. What's the pasuk mean? My Chavishis. Amar Yehuda b'shashem and Hasheves also tlamim mayam. So Yehuda says it comes from the word chavisha, to plow, and it means as if to say that the eastern wind. It says there was eastern wind, ruach kadim. The eastern wind is called Chavishis. So he says it's like a plowing wind. Why is that? Because when it comes, it blows strong wind, so it's as if it makes furrows in the yam. The wind causes there should be waves, furrows in the yam, and that's why it's called Chavishis, like Lashon Chavisha, like plowing. A very strong wind. So a strong wind came, and that was bothering. So what to say over there? So the pasuk continues. First it says that the kikayon, the tree that grew, so it dried up, and then it says that there was an eastern wind, Chavishis, and the sun shone on Yonah's head, and he fainted. If it's a strong wind, it doesn't sound like that's the reason why Yonah should faint. It sounds like it was a hot wind, not a strong wind. He says Lashon of Chavishis is like cherish, like deafening. So the point is going to be, excuse me, that it's like it deafens. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Shakar. Thank you. That it deafens all the other winds. In other words, not because of the sound, but it means that it stops all the other winds. The other winds that are a bit cool, and the eastern wind, it seems to be a hot wind. That's what it seems to say. The eastern wind is a hot wind, and therefore it stops all the other winds. If there's any cool breeze coming, this eastern wind is gonna quiet them all down because it overpowers them. And it's only hot, and that's why he fainted. Now the Gemara jumps from the eastern wind to the southern wind, Is that true? So you might learn from the Gemara that the southern wind is also hot. But Rashi learns differently. Rashi learns that the southern, how's Rashi go here? Rashi goes that the southern wind is a cool wind. And Bashket, Eretz Midorom means when the southern wind is quieted down. When the cool southern wind is quieted down by who? And Rashi learns by the eastern wind. The same way the Gemara said till now that the eastern wind is a hot wind. Nachavusa said that the eastern wind means it comes from the midbar in Eretz Yisrael. You have the western wind that's coming from the Yam, so it's a cool and moist, and the one that comes from the east, that comes from the desert, so it's more of a hot wind. So that's how maybe. So Rashi learns that it's here the southern wind against the eastern wind. The southern wind, Rashi says, would have been cool, and now the eastern wind is gonna heat it down, heat it up, whatever. So it says here, the pasuk says that your clothing is hot. So Rashi's the Gemara is going to learn right away that it means that southern wind is quieted down. Not that the land is quieted down from the south, but the southern wind is quieted down. Put it above. When are you hot? When the southern wind is quieted down. So Rashi puts in the eastern wind. When the eastern wind blows, so all the other winds are quieted down. So it's a little bit, Rashi's tries a little bit difficult in the words. Rashi learns that it means the eastern wind, which the Gemara doesn't talk about. The eastern wind quiets down the southern wind. Might be other pshat in the Gemara, but that's how Rashi learns. So we came in about the winds, and it says that the eastern wind is a hot wind. The Gemara says a couple of stories now. Rav Huna, Rav Chizda, Abu Yasfi, Rav Huna and Rav Chizda were sitting together. Cholif, the Yosef, Oslo Geneva Alayim. Geneva, that was his name. Geneva, he passed by. And we know Geneva from that above.
What's the Chalif?
He passed by.
Okay.
And he went, passed and went by them. So with Geneva, we had about that road of Zion over there. It said that Mar Ukva, what he was what? It's Mar Ukva, that Mar Ukva had problems with him, and Mar Ukva even wanted to give him over to the Malchus, and he was advised not to over there with a seer to it. But they said, "Dom Hashem v'scholulo, be quiet, and Hashem will take care." And Mapul Chalalim at the end, Geneva was taken by the government, and he was killed. But he
It's on the
seems to
story
be.
you're reading.
I'm just saying that Geneva, about Geneva, background about Geneva, which is going to be soon.
Why his name is.
Who he is? No, why he's called that I don't know. But you find that he was some problematic figure, and he got into a big fight with Mar Ukva. At the end, he got killed because of it. Mar Ukva himself wanted to give him over to the government. He was told not to, but Lamaisa he got taken by the government, and he was killed. So, but he also was a Talmud Chacham. That's what it sounds like. So one of them said to the other, doesn't say who. One said to the other, let's get up him because he's a Talmud Chacham. Bar Oryan sounds like a Raisa or Hara. The other one said for him to get up.
The Bar Orion.
Oryan. The bar. He's a Bar Oryan. He's a Ben Torah.
Oh, the Bar Orion.
Oryan sounds like a Raisa.
Oh,
me,
and
it's
a guy.
He's a Talmud Chacham, he would say. The other one said we should get up for him. Talking about Amolei Beruchos, we're talking about winds. So Rabbi Miller says, you go to two Talmid Chachamim, to Gedolei Adar, Yasamai, you're talking about winds. Rabbi Miller says you're supposed to talk about the winds. You're supposed to talk about the winds.
If they talked about the winds, then
So
we should
talk about the winds.
Okay.
Amalu Hachiyama. So he told them also, you want to talk about the winds, I'll tell you something about the winds. Amalu Hachiyama Avchan Barav, Rav said, there are 4 winds that they blow every day. Every day there are winds from different directions, from the east, from the south, from the north, the west. But the northern wind is blowing with all of them. With all of them, the northern wind always blows. If not for that, the world wouldn't exist even 1 hour. The southern wind is the most difficult. The southern wind is the hottest, difficult wind. You can learn that before Rashi learned that the dromus was a cool wind, so it's a little bit difficult in the Gemara. The Gemara says here that southern wind is very difficult. The Gemara says the eastern wind is difficult, and the Gemara also says here that the southern one is difficult. You could say both of them are difficult. Rashi learned before that the Ruach Dromus has some coolness to it. So here it says that Ruach Dromus is the most difficult. There's some malach called Ben Eitz, a malach. If he wouldn't hold it back, the southern wind would destroy the whole world, but he holds it back. He brings a pasuk, the Dashna Shenemar, Amibinascha Ya Bernates, Yifros Kenafav Luteiman. So if that pasuk is talking to Eov, Hashem's talking to Eov and saying that you have wisdom, are you the one who knows how to run the world, and you have kashas on me? Amibinascha Ya Bernates, is it from your understanding that the nates is a kind of a bird, that it's able, that has big wings, Yifros Kenafav Luteiman, that it spreads out its wings to the south, so the Pashup Pshat, not the Pashup Pshat, but the Drash Gemara saying is that this bird, Nates, either a bird or a malach, he spreads out its wings and it stops the southern wind from blowing. It's a very destructive wind. So the 4 winds blow every day. The southern wind is the most difficult, and Hashem made that Ben Nates should be holding it back, that it shouldn't blow so hard. New story.
So there wasn't anything problematic here. He
no problems here.
Spoke about the winds and gave more information.
Right. But the Gemara talks in the introduction that the question was to get up for him or not, and the Gemara said not to get up for him because he was a Baal Machlokas. Interesting figure. Who is he? Like he was such a Talmud Chacham, and also he got into a fight with Mar Ukva, and then he was even Chayiv Mitzvah because of that. Hashem orchestrated that he should die. I'm not sure. These two Amorim were sitting.
I heard it was problematic before we started with Marukba.
Because
After Marukba, he was Yotzer Rekola. So he was even before Marukba.
How long? No, it could have been during the story. How long was the story of Marukba? Could have been, it was a period. It could have been a 6-month thing, could have been a year. I don't know when it was definitely put into the Kola. Marukba couldn't take it already. He said, Ad Khan, so he wanted to kill him.
He was during that story.
Could be. They were sitting. There's Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak and Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. So they were sitting, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, and Rav Nachman bar Yaakov was passing by. The Yosef Beguakot the Dava, he was passing by in a golden chariot. So I don't know much about Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. Here it says he was very rich. He had a golden chariot. Well, Paras Alei Savala the Karti, it had upon him a Karti coat. So Karti usually means leek, Leek, some kind of green, a green coat. Rashi says that it's tchelis. Rashi, the Shitasa, always says that tchelis is green. So he says that this was the royal garment made out of Karti, but it's very big chiddush because we know that tchelis is blue. So I don't know what to do with the Rashi, but there was a chashava garment. He had, and it could be also that he wasn't able to see him because soon he didn't know who he was. Okay. Okay. So he was the official governor. I don't know what he was doing there, but he seemed to be coming in the royal chariot. So Rav went to greet whoever was inside the wagon, and Rav Nachman Yitzchak didn't go. Why? It sounds like it's some person who's from the Reish Galusa, because they're going with the government officials. So the way he's going in such a kind of a royal chariot, so it must be from the Reish Galusa. So I have no reason why I should go to see him. Rabba needs him, needs this connection, whatever, to the Reish Galusa. I don't need to, so therefore I'm not going to go. But then they saw who it was. It wasn't some nobleman. It wasn't some Reish Galusa people. It was Avrohom bar Yaakov.
Excuse me, the Reish Galusa was not necessarily a Talmid Chacham. He's a Jewish.
Yeah. He's Jewish, but not that Talmid Chacham. He was the head, but sometimes more of a political figure. It wasn't always a Talmid Chacham. Sometimes they were difficult. So at first, Rav Nachman Yitzchak was not interested in going to see him because it might be the Reish Galusa, so I'm not interested. But then he saw that it was Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. He went to greet him. So Rav Nachman Yaakov was a hot day, and he picked up his sleeve. He picked up his sleeve because it was hot, and he said Shadya Nashiv. The word Nashiv is to blow. Shadya Rashi says means a shade, like a shade is blowing. It probably was a southern wind, a very difficult wind, hot. Rav said, that this hot wind causes that a woman should have a miscarriage. Even a pearl will become spoiled from the heat. Even the semen that's in the woman's womb is going to get spoiled. It's not going to be able to conceive. Usually there are 3 days that she could conceive, but if it's such a hot day, that even the shechva zera is going to become spoiled. Or a different Amora, all 3 pshatim that we said about a woman having a miscarriage and also that the pearl is going to spoil. And
is that some kind of a code?
It could be. I imagine that as a code for something, but the pshat
the
Gemara.
Egg. If we're talking about the semen, maybe this is the egg.
Which one?
The pearl.
No, I think that was the pearl. I think that's not the pearl. I hear what you're saying, but I would say that it means, how can a pearl get spoiled?
In the sun?
Get spoiled? You don't think so? Okay, I hear.
I don't know.
You want to say?
It sounds like it's a
and you want to say that's a code word? Okay, I don't know. Rashi doesn't say. The Gemara continues that there's a remnant from the pasuk for all these 3 things. All 3 things can be dashed from the following pasuk. It says in where's this pasuk?
Hosea 13.
Where is it? Don't have it? Oh, here it is. Here it is on the side.
Oh, you have it.
Ihu bein achim yafri yavo kadim. The pasuk, the Gemara means the whole pasuk. Ruach Adonai midbar oleh v'yevosh mikorov v'yachrav ma'yano hu yishaser yotzar kol kli chamda. He between achim yafri. I think achim over there means like marshes. What's the word yafri? To flourish. The eastern wind comes. Here comes the eastern wind. Ruach Hashem, coming from the midbar, like it says, we said before that the eastern wind comes from the midbar, and the water is going to get dried up. That the source, the water is going to become dried up. He's going to plunder the treasures of all delightful vessels. So it says something about the eastern wind that's very destructive. So here it goes. And he's going to say now, could be that it was eastern wind, not a southern wind. So he brings this pasuk and he says, you see all 3 things. You see a reference for all these 3 things that the eastern wind is able to destroy. That's the pasuk. So Yevosh Mekorov is Umekoro Shalisha. The source is going to be dried up. That means the womb is called the source. The makor is called the source. The Akrav Mayan knows the Shech Vazera. The Mayan is the spring, like the Mayan of the Shech Vazera that it comes out of the organ. Shebmei Isha. The Shech Vazera Shebmei Isha is called the Mayan. No, maybe the Mayan because of the woman that got it from the man. That's called the Mayan. And who Isha says called Klichem Da. Zuma Gola Shebeyam. It says Shebeyam, so it sounds like not like a cold word. It says it's going to plunder the treasure of all delightful things. So it's referring to the pearl, which is a delightful thing that's maybe in a klichem da, that's in the oyster, whatever you want to say. But he has a right from all these things from the pasuk. One line, last line, Amarava Adi Surahu. Rashi says this is from people of Surah. People who said such kind of a drasha, like I said, of Nachum Yitzchak or Yaakov, whatever the drashas before. So this is from the Surah people. I guess he attributed to them the wisdom to make such drushes. The Daiki Kroi, they are the ones who would like the psukim, so you got all three into one pasuk. The pasuk says, Kihu ben Achim Yafri, what does that mean? My Kihu ben Achim Yafri, Amarava. So the Gemara is going to say drushes on the word. I feel the shufsa to the kufina, the mora rafia. When it's a hot day, so then even the handle of some kind of a tool, of a hoe, would also get loose. Maybe because it shrinks or because it widens. The shufsa and the Rashi on that, base yad. Rashi says base shufsa means the handle of the kufina, which means the place where you wedge it in. The hole on top of the hole that is supposed to get stuck in to be wedged out. So now it also gets on these hot days, so it gets loose. It's not wedged in so much anymore. The next one, even if you have a nail inside the wall, it's also going to become loose. And also, if you have a Rashi says a reed that's weaved into a wicker basket is also going to become loose. That the heat probably makes everything expand and loose. So that's the difficulty of the winds, of the southern or the eastern wind. Everybody, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tomorrow 5:30.
Very good. Very good.